If you're anything like me, you more than likely have been playing games since you were a little kid. And now you're in your mid-20s and you're continuing to play games. But one thing has changed. That's the fact that as time has gone on, you've had an ever-increasing amount of games that you have bought but have never played. This is what we call the backlog. Despite your best efforts, you more than likely have only seen it grown over time, and that's assuming you've even taken the time to try and tackle it at all. More than likely, you're probably one of those people who just buys games solely when they're on sale. You throw it in the backlog and you say, I'll get to you later. And what do you do in the meantime? Probably just replay a game that you played 10 times over already. Let me guess. Fallout New Vegas, Final Fantasy, maybe you're going to do Stardew Valley all over again, Animal Crossing. Or hey, maybe you just want to take a more slower, methodical approach to Red Dead Redemption 2. Or you're one of those people that just use emulators to replay games from your adolescence because you no longer have the console or it's just simply easier. Regardless of what it is, we're all guilty of doing the same thing. Replaying games when we have brand new games sitting in our libraries that we have yet to even install. What we may not have in common is our gaming background, the systems we grew up with, the games we were able to afford, and overall, the experience we got to enjoy. I was born in 2000, so that can give you guys a pretty good idea as to what gaming era I grew up in, what was coming out around what ages I would have been. My original console was actually an NES. I really only had 4 games for it. I had Super Mario with Duck Hunt, of course, because everyone had that. I had a NASCAR and a baseball game, but my brain being the size of a peanut between the ages of about 5 or 7, I really couldn't understand the other two, so I basically just stuck playing Mario on occasion. My NES would end up getting lost at some point during my move when I was a child. At least that's what my parents always told me. I have honestly no idea what happened to it. There's a chance we might have just sold it. Then in the 5th grade, I ended up buying a blue Game Boy Advance off of a friend of mine that he wasn't supposed to sell. And the only reason I know this is because I bought it on a Friday. So then come Monday, I was like, hey, you never gave me a charger for this, so like now it's just dead. And he was like, oh yeah, I need it back. Like my mom kicked my ass for like selling that to you because I wasn't supposed to. I think I bought it for like $40. And I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna give this back to you. Like I really like this, but I need a charger. And he was like, oh, okay, well, I'll just like take it home with me and I'll charge it and then give it back to you. And I didn't trust him at the time, so thankfully I didn't. I went home and I told my mom about that. And she's like, yeah, don't do that. He's just gonna take it back and you're never gonna see it again. And then you're not gonna get your money back. So she took me to Radio Shack, if you guys remember that, fucking Radio Shack, to go get like a charger, but they only had like an 18-piece one that cost like $20 or $30. My mom wasn't happy about it, but she was like, whatever, you got like the system like for cheap, so I'm just gonna buy this anyways. I don't remember too many of the games that I had on Game Boy. I just remember having Pokemon Leaf Green, Ruby Red, Sapphire Blue, and a few other random games, like a Kirby one that I really liked but I could never beat. And then I had the Game Boy for about 3 or so years, I want to say. I ended up selling it to GameStop. At the time, GameStop was about to stop taking in retro devices, which Game Boy counted as. So I was like, okay, let me go get the extra money for this thing, right? And then I'll go buy something else. Little did I know that's not how that works. I got like $80 in store credit, and they just gave it to me on a little gift card, and then I left basically crying because I was like, what the hell? I lost my Game Boy. Now I have nothing because I couldn't afford to get anything. I think a DS at the time was like about $110, $120. So I was like, what the hell? I just lost it. My parents tried consoling me and they were like, oh, there'll be another opportunity. We'll get something later, blah, 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 right? So I got lucky because they ended up getting me a DS later that year for my birthday. Ironically enough, for whatever reason, I didn't sell all of my GBA collection. I think I kept like a Pokemon game or two. So when they got me the DS and the backward compatibility of it, I was still able to play with some of the games I had. So that was really cool. And then they also got me 3 or 4 games. I remember one of them being Revenge of the Sith. And the other one was like Ghost Recon, I want to say. It was some sort of shooter that I had no idea what it was. I honestly could not think that far back. What I do remember is not going to sleep until super late at night because I was so excited about having it. And I kept telling myself, oh my gosh, this is a dream. So I just kept telling myself, let me just play this till like 3 in the morning, even though I had school the next day, because I was like, oh, when I wake up, it's going to be gone. Eventually, I go on to get a PSP, and I remember just flip-flopping between a DS and a PSP, like every 6 months. Like, I'd sell my PSP, go buy a DS, and then I'd sell my DS and go get a PSP. I don't know what was wrong with me. I just could not decide on which one I wanted to play at the time. My parents ended up buying me a 360 when I was about the 8th grade, so I played that until I was about 16. I got my first job on my very first paycheck. It was $220. I traded in my 360 and used that check to go buy an Xbox One. And then later on, I ended up getting a PS4 Pro from a friend of a friend, so I had that generation pretty unlocked. But at that point, of course, I started making my own money. In 2018, I go on to get a Nintendo Switch using my tax refund from that year, and then I was one of the lucky few people who got an Xbox Series X on launch day. I had both of those at the same time, but really I was only playing my Switch up until I got the Series X, and then I basically completely abandoned it, ended up selling it in 2021. I kept my Series X for a few years, and then I ended up selling it in 2023 because I had stopped playing that, because at the end of the day, the only thing that ended up entertaining me was the fact that I got a Steam Deck in October of 2022, so about 8 months after release, and it just completely took over my gaming experience. Stupidly enough, I ended up going on to buy a Nintendo Switch Lite and an Xbox One S, literally so I could only play MLB The Show on Switch on the go. And then I bought the Series S because I wanted to play College Football 25 when it came out, because it was not on PC. Probably not the wisest decision. And I say that because of the fact they're both now just sitting in my closet collecting dust, because of course my desire to play both of those games just kind of comes and goes whenever it does. And at the moment, I think it's been like 6 months since I've touched either one of them, at least. All this to say that despite having consoles my entire teenage years growing up, I really missed out on a lot of games. I didn't play a lot of the major titles, such as the original Red Dead Redemption. I didn't play the Halo campaigns. I did play the multiplayer at friends' houses on occasion. I didn't play Dead Space. I didn't play Star Wars The Old Republic. I never even touched Skyrim. I still haven't even touched Skyrim more than past like the first hour to this day. Even in later console generations, I missed out on a ton of games. I didn't get to play the Need for Speed series, The Last of Us, any of the God of War games, Sunset Overdrive, Nier Automata, the Witcher series, any of the Metal Gear games, Uncharted, Gears of War 4 and 5, Resident Evil, Bloodborne. Actually, I was there for Resident Evil 7 on day one. I don't know why, but I was there for day one. That trailer just caught my eye, and so I played it. But I will say, I didn't miss everything. I did play Cuphead, Detroit Become Human, PUBG, Days Gone, Until Dawn, Rise Son of Rome, Rainbow Six Siege, Spider-Man PS4. I played some things. So what, we all miss out on games and console generations and so on. What's the big deal? The big deal is the fact that I need you guys to kind of get a better idea as to why it's important that the Steam Deck came out and how I've been able to use it. Not only because it allows me to go back to older generations and play new games that came out on PC, because of course either emulating them or other roundabout ways of playing those games is just difficult, but I also don't care to deal with that jankiness of old games. And the Steam Deck allows me to get around some of that stuff, because not only does it work as essentially as a PC, but I can then modify the experience on the Steam Deck itself to then better acclimate to how I need it to play. Not only that, but obviously outside of just being allowed to play games that previously I couldn't, it's also just the fact that playing on the go just makes things a whole lot easier and just streamlines the whole gaming experience. Speaking of streamlined experiences, I've been a very big fan of the flurry of remakes that have been coming out the past 4 or 6 years. I know for some people that are like really tired of it already, they were tired of it pretty early on because of the fact that like I've already played these games and so I don't need remakes of them. Though I will say the exception to that rule is the fact that basically everyone was pretty happy with the Resident Evil remakes because they completely changed how those games are played. Also, for someone like me who again missed out on a lot of these games, these are like the perfect way for me to play them, because yeah, I really want to go back and play Resident Evil 2 the way it was originally released. So then remaking the last few games, again, just chef's kiss. Thank you for making that. But anyways, let's get down to what you're really here about. The difficulty between choosing to replay a game you've already beaten or finally starting that new game you've been putting off. Going back to the start of 2024, I wanted to make an actual concentrated effort towards actually playing the games I had in my backlog and trying to reduce it as much as I could. Not only because of the fact that I felt like I was not only wasting time by not playing these games, but also I just felt like, yeah, I bought all these, I have to play them at some point. And now, pushing 3 years having the Steam Deck, I have 931 games. As of the recording of this video, it's August 29th, 2025. But here's the thing though. The reason my backlog was even able to get this big is because 1/3 of the games that I actually own, I made through trades. Because I bought keys from bundles, either from Humble, Fanatical, end of the year charity bundles, and so on, that I would then, if I didn't play them, I would just go on to trade them. And I had a pretty good way of, flipping what I had. So I got like maybe 1/3, probably more of the games that I have in my backlog through just trades. The rest, of course, like I mentioned, I did actually just buy from Humble, Fanatical, and again, end of year charity bundles. On the rare occasion, I did get one from like a friend or so, but again, mostly just buying and trading. The rest of them came from, sales, of course, like the winter sale, summer sale, and so on. But where I could, I would go to third-party websites like CD Keys and stuff like that, or Penguin and so on. Not a sponsor or anything like that, but I figured I should just mention that. If I can save a few bucks, a few cents, I will just do that the best of my ability. So I separate the games in my backlog in 4 different categories. The first one being games I've already played. So basically I play this game at any point in time prior to getting the Steam Deck. So take something like Dead Island, Shadow of War, Nuclear Throne, Fallout 3, Dying Light, Mafia 2, Spec Up the Lines, and so on. You guys get the point. Then there was games that I got put onto by either videos, seeing something on social media, whatever the case may be. I just saw it somewhere on the internet, basically. So take Project Zomboid, Ready or Not, Zero Ranger, Brotato, those kind of games that get really popular to the point where you just see content made about it all the time. Ultra Kill, easy example, right? After that will come major releases. So take any like big name game like Helldivers 2, Slay the Spire, Stanley Parable, Doom Eternal, Inside, Frostpunk, stuff like that. Something that, like, again, not that it's so popular that it gets made into videos, but something that you would see ads for either on the internet, or it's a game that just like is like in every like, oh, top 10 games you need to play this year type of list, you know. The last one is just games that I honestly just forgot about that I don't have a personal connection to, but it's something that like it's in my backlog. When I see, I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot I had you, but you of course still look fun. So take Ace Combat 7, Blasphemous, Dead Cells, Fights in Tight Spaces, Rain World, Norco, stuff like that. According to my Steam replay, I had played 106 games in 2024, 30 more than in 2023, but of those 106, only 73 were games I had never played before. But upon further review, I realized in reality, I had actually only played and completed 14 games that I had never beaten on any console. A handful of the games I actually played that year too were games I just never finished from the previous year for one reason or another. I even dropped a few that I just never came back to. The rest were all games I had played before. So in reality, in my first year of actually trying to tackle my backlog, I only played 14 games I had never played. So basically 1.1 games a month completed. For my first year trying to get my backlog, not a very good start. So what about this year? Well, I've been personally tracking myself and keeping tabs of not only my notes, but I actually made it a whole Twitter. Follow me at @HatTopGaming, self-plug real quick. But according to that list so far, I have played 28 games from start to finish, and of those 28, 22 have been the first time playthroughs, so basically doubling what I did last year. We're approaching the end of August. There's still plenty of time left for me to beat more, of course. That's only a fraction of my library that I've gotten through, and while not every game takes 20 to 30 hours to beat, playing with an objective and trying to play as quickly and efficiently as possible can still make things feel like a chore sometimes, even despite the fact that I wasn't putting any time constraints or rules at all on myself, and I was focusing on games that I wanted to play. But unfortunately, it didn't matter. In April, I completed 0 games. I fell into a sort of a hole where basically the only thing I was playing for the entire month was just 2K and Chivalry 2. I made marginal progress on games that I was playing at the time, such as Ready or Not, Vampire, Super Meat Boy, Star Wars Republic Heroes. Weird mix of games, I know. I like to play 4 to 6 games at a time and kind of just swap between them as the day goes on. I usually have a roguelike, a story game, a multiplayer, a chill game, and so on. It helps just break up the monotony because I feel like if I focus on just 1 or 2 games at a time, I kind of feel like I get more bored with them quickly because it's like, oh, I'm only focusing on these. But instead of when I just have a plan of just have these X amount of games downloaded and these are the only things I have downloaded, it allows me to just better focus myself. But unfortunately, in that month of April, I really only had fun playing 2 games the entire time. It kind of reminds me of when I was a kid and the only games I really had were Battlefield 3 and 2K. So I guess sort of the same thing, except you swap out Chivalry 2 for Battlefield 3 and it's just a different version of 2K this time around. Unlike others I have seen trying to do the same thing, and I had watched videos previously which kind of got me into the idea of this at all, just like people making videos about tackling their backlog. Immediately there's always cracks or flaws in their plan of how they would go about it. They'd always add unnecessary rules or put certain time constraints on themselves, having to make regulations of if they had to be X amount of games in this amount of time. And I always just thought that was kind of dumb because they're going to put themselves in a rock and a hard place unnecessarily, which in my mind just made them destined to fail. So when I did it, I just did no rules for me whatsoever, like I mentioned earlier. But ironically enough, I still ended up being lazy about it and taking breaks on occasion. Sometimes I just lost interest in the game, which I think is perfectly normal. Not everything you're gonna try, whether it's a game, a movie, a show, a new food, or whatever, there's no guarantee you're gonna like it. And sometimes I would just get to a particular section in a game that just felt like a slog. I definitely know some games where I can like immediately pinpoint to where I lost interest because of that. Other times I just wanted to play something else because I saw a video or I was scrolling through my library at a boredom and I just like looked at a game and I was like, dang, I want to play that right now actually, instead of whatever I'm playing right now. But at the end of the day, I didn't want to drop any game that I was currently playing, so sometimes I would just take months to beat something because I would drag it out, because I know when I drop something I'm not going to want to come back to it. I just know myself and know how I am. The perfect example I can give you of this is I started my 3rd playthrough of Dying Light back in 2023. I did not finish it until this year. And the only reason I did that is because of the fact I saw a YouTube video about Dying Light and I was like, let me go, and finally finished the game of June of this year. Another example I can give you is Twin Mirror and This the Police. I dropped both of them. Granted, it was for different reasons, but all the same, I made no attempt to come back to them. And I imagine like most of you, I don't plan out what games I'm going to play next. The way that I do it is I have my girlfriend pick out 3 random letters, and from those letters, I'll go into my library and I'll find 3 games from each of those letters. So I'll pick games that I have immediate interest in, and then I'll have her pick one of those games at random for me to play. It keeps me from stalling and also helps me stay on track. So what's the problem then? If I'm playing games that I want and I'm not having an issue picking them, and I'm having a healthy amount of games to juggle through so I don't get bored, what's the problem? Well, it's the same problem we all face at some point when it comes to picking dinner sometimes. It's either all reliable, something we've already had before, or picking something new. But of course, when you're picking something new, especially when it comes to food, you're going to be worried you're going to pick something that your wallet is going to pay for and your mouth won't like. And the same thing applies to gaming. You're going to pick a game, and if you don't like it, all the hours you spent, the hand motions, the frustration, whatever the case may be, it was for nothing. I find myself staring at Max Payne 3 lately again, but the irony is, despite the fact that I've already played that 6 times in the last 18 months, I still haven't even touched the first 2 games. Another example of this is Elden Ring. My girlfriend bought me that for Christmas, and every time I look at it and I don't play it, I just think to myself, okay, well, whenever she brings up the letter E, she doesn't pick Elden Ring, so clearly it's not my fault. Another thing with the Steam Deck, of course, too, is that it basically works as a PC. I mean, that's kind of the whole selling point, right? And coming off of Xbox and just also gaming in general, it's really just opened my eyes to just how big the PC library was. I have a whole new plethora of games I've never seen before. Some of them I've never even heard before, and a lot of them I would have never been able to play because of the fact that they just aren't on console simply, or when they do go on console, it's years later and you just don't have that same indie experience because the PC community is so big on indies and pushes them that I would never been exposed to that through Xbox or PlayStation Media. The also good thing about it as well is that also it kind of works like a Switch because you can get a dock for it, but of course it also works in a handheld mode, so it makes it convenient regardless of how I want to play. For a good minute there, my original Steam Deck, I actually broke the X, Y, A, B buttons, so I was forced to play it essentially as a console unless I was playing like Balatro, in which case I could just, use the touchscreen. But having to just Bluetooth sync my Xbox controller and then put it up to my TV was honestly great. Just another additive about that is the fact I finally got to play the Resident Evil series through the remakes. So again, just another way of how the Steam Deck has come and allowed me to play games I never would have played before. And again, like I mentioned earlier, just an ocean of indie games like Buckshot Roulette, King of the Bridge, Short Hike, Lonely Mountains Downhill, and it also gave me access to old childhood games again. And of course, the obvious thing with Steam is I got to play games I never heard of before, or on the other end, I just never got a chance to play, like Darkest Dungeon, Doom, Metro, Amnesia, Tomb Raider, and a whole lot more. If you were to assign all the games in my library a random number and then proceed to just play like a lottery and pick numbers at random, there's a pretty good chance I've never played those games before, let alone remember the fact that they're even in my library. Because the reality is we all get that same itch to go play something that we've already done before, because you know what? They're fun. And the reality is not every game in our backlog is going to be just as fun as the next. So sometimes when we're playing that lottery of do we go back to all reliable or do we pick something we've already played before, we're going to be inclined to pick something we've already played before because there's no guarantee the next game is nearly as fun. Maybe it's going to be more frustrating. Maybe it's just going to be longer than we want it to be. There's so many things that could go wrong. And the reality is that gaming is just about having fun. So if you had the chance between having fun and then having not fun, it's kind of like that meme from Family Guy where it's like the mystery box could be anything. It could even be a boat.
Oh, no, not so fast, Lois. A boat's a boat, but the mystery box could be anything. It could even be a boat!
As I currently record this video, I'm actually on my first playthrough of Ultra Kill. I'm doing my first ever replay of GTA 5. I hop back on Marvel Rivals, and of course I'm still playing 2K. I also plan to start Double Kick Heroes, Mad Max, and Little Nightmares pretty soon. But every time I start a new game, I just think about the next one, and what it could be, and how good it could be, and how amazing it is, and why am I playing the game I'm currently playing right now, why don't I just play the next one? But of course, that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, right? Because I haven't even picked that game yet. It's just the idea that the next one could be the best one, and the one I'm playing right now just may not be worth the salt. It's sort of like that meme of that guy that looks back at the other girl when he's walking with his girlfriend. But anyways, guys, some food for thought. The next time you're looking at your library and you're looking at the games that you want to play, focus on the one that you're playing right now. Go ahead and finish it. And then play the game you fucking bought last winter's sale. And just play that finally. Like, you already spent the money, you can't get the refund, just go ahead and play it already. Because good or bad, at least you'll have finally played the game, and that's one more game that's no longer in your backlog. And if push comes to shove and the game isn't good, just review bomb it everywhere you possibly can. Anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this video today. Let me know what games you guys like to replay every single year. Do you guys have games that you replay every year? Maybe you go back to it every Halloween because it's a spooky, scary game that reminds you of the holiday season. The same way how people love to watch Halloween movies every single year. Can't say I'm one of those people, but you guys let me know in the comments down below. Let me know about any of the games that you're playing currently. Let me know the game that you're sort of struggling to get to because you worry that it's not going to be what you want it to be. Let me know about any of those games in the comment section down below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you all next time. Peace.